Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars. The ship was called Terra's Pride, and it looked old and beaten up. The hull had rust spots and dents all over it. The lights flickered on and off, like they might stop working any second. Anyone who saw this ship would think it was just an old cargo hauler that had seen better days. But looks can be deceiving. Jake smiled as he watched his crew work at their stations. They all knew the truth about their ship, but they played their parts perfectly. To the rest of the galaxy, they were just another group of human traders trying to make a living in space. "Captain, we're getting a message from the space station," said Lieutenant Amy Phillips from her seat at the communications console. Amy was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and bright green eyes. She had been practicing her nervous voice for weeks. "Put it through," Jake said, settling into his captain's chair. The chair was deliberately uncomfortable and patched with old tape. Everything on the bridge was designed to look cheap and worn out. A strange musical voice came through the speakers. "Human vessel Terra's Pride, this is Zephyrian Control. State your business at Council Station." Amy pressed the transmit button and put on her best worried expression, even though the aliens couldn't see her. Zephyrian Control, this is Terra's Pride. We're here to deliver supplies to the human ambassador. We have, let me check the list." She made rustling sounds with some papers. "We have coffee, chocolate, and some Earth music recordings." The Zephyrian controller's voice sounded bored. "Proceed to docking bay 12. You will be inspected before unloading." "Thank you, Control," Amy said, making her voice shake a little. She cut the connection and grinned at Jake. They bought it completely. Commander Lisa Hayes walked over from her station. Lisa was Jake's second in command, a tall woman with gray hair and sharp blue eyes. She had been in the military for 20 years and knew how to keep secrets. "The crew is ready, Captain. Everyone knows their roles." Jake nodded. "Good. Remember, we're just simple traders. We don't know anything about advanced technology or military tactics. We're here to deliver supplies and maybe make a small profit." Chief Engineer Ryan Clark looked up from his console. Ryan was a big man with calloused hands and grease stains on his uniform. He had spent months making sure every system on the ship looked old and broken. "The disguise systems are working perfectly, Captain. Their scanners will show exactly what we want them to see." The Terra's Pride slowly approached the massive space station. Council Station was huge, bigger than most cities on Earth. It was where representatives from all the major alien species met to discuss galactic politics. The station had been built by the Zephyrians, who thought they were the smartest race in the galaxy. It was made of some kind of crystal that sparkled in the light of the nearby star dot as they got closer. Jake could see other ships docked at the station. There were sleek Zephyrian vessels that looked like they were made of glass and metal. Draknari warships sat nearby, dark and threatening with weapon ports along their sides. The ethereal ships were harder to see, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. And then there were the human ships. They all looked like Terra's Pride, old, beat up, and barely functional. The aliens had no idea that humanity had been putting on an act for 10 years. "Docking Bay 12 is coming up," Amy reported. "I can see the inspection team waiting for us." Jake stood up and straightened his worn uniform. "Showtime, people. Remember, we're just humble traders who are grateful for the chance to serve the great galactic community." The ship shuddered as it touched down in the docking bay. Through the viewports, Jake could see the inspection team approaching. Leading them was a tall, reptilian creature with dark scales and glowing red eyes. This was Security Chief Vexstar, one of the Draknari who ran station security. "He looks friendly," Amy muttered. "Stay in character," Lisa warned quietly. "Remember, we're supposed to be intimidated by them." The airlock hissed open, and the inspection team came aboard. Vexstar had to duck to fit through the doorway. His claws clicked on the metal floor as he walked. Behind him came two smaller aliens with scanning equipment. "Captain Morrison," Vexstar said in a deep, rumbling voice. "I am Security Chief Vexstar. We must inspect your vessel and cargo." Jake stepped forward, trying to look nervous. "Of course, Chief Vexstar. We're happy to cooperate. We're just bringing supplies to our ambassador." Vexstar's red eyes looked around the bridge with obvious disgust. "Humans," he said, as if the word tasted bad. "Your technology is so primitive. How do you even manage to travel between stars?" "We do our best," Jake said humbly. "We're grateful that the Council allows us to trade in civilized space." One of the smaller aliens ran a scanner over the ship's systems. The device beeped and showed readings that indicated the ship was exactly what it appeared to be: an old cargo hauler with basic life support and simple engines. "Cargo manifest," Vexstar demanded. Amy quickly handed him a datapad. Her hands shook just a little, as if she was nervous about dealing with such an important alien. "It's all there, sir. Coffee, chocolate, music, and some personal items for the ambassador." Vexstar glanced at the list and handed it back. "Worthless human luxuries," he said, "but harmless. You have permission to unload your cargo." He turned to leave, then paused. "Try not to embarrass yourselves while you're here. The Council has important business to discuss." "We'll stay out of the way," Jake promised. After the inspection team left, the crew relaxed. Ryan wiped sweat from his forehead. "I thought he was going to ask about the engine modifications." "The disguise held," Lisa said with satisfaction. "He saw exactly what we wanted him to see." Jake walked to the viewport and looked out at the other ships in the docking bay. Somewhere on this station, representatives from across the galaxy were meeting to discuss the future. They had no idea that humanity was about to change everything. "Are you ready for this?" Amy asked quietly. Jake nodded. "We've been preparing for 10 years. It's time to show them what humans can really do." The Terra's Pride sat quietly in its docking bay, looking like nothing more than an old cargo ship. But inside its disguised hull, some of the most advanced technology in the galaxy waited for the right moment to reveal itself. The deception was complete. Now came the hard part. The council chamber was the largest room on the station. It was shaped like a huge bowl, with seats arranged in circles going down toward the center. The most important species had seats near the bottom, while the less important ones sat higher up. At the very top, in the smallest and most distant seats, sat the representatives of the minor species. Ambassador Kate Fisher sat in one of those top seats. She was a middle-aged woman with brown hair and kind eyes, but those eyes held secrets. That could change the galaxy. She wore a simple black suit that looked cheap compared to the fancy robes and armor worn by the other ambassadors. Down at the bottom of the chamber, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were gathering. Prime Zephi was the leader of the Zephyrian Empire. His body was made of living crystal that sparkled with inner light. When he spoke, his voice sounded like music. But Kate knew there was no kindness in him. Near him sat Supreme General Kexmore of the Draknari military. He was huge, even for his species, with black scales and scars from many battles. His red eyes burned with the desire for war. The Draknari believed that might made right, and they had the fleets to prove it. The Ethereal Delegate was harder to see. The Ethereals were ancient beings who could read minds and see the future. They rarely spoke out loud, preferring to communicate through telepathy. Their representative appeared as a shimmering outline in the air, more ghost than solid being. Prime Sci-Fi called the meeting to order. His crystal body pulsed with light as he spoke. "Members of the Galactic Council, we face a crisis unlike any in our history. A new threat has emerged from the dark zone beyond our borders. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed star maps with red markers indicating destroyed systems. Kate counted at least a dozen worlds that had gone dark. The Void Hunters, General Kexmore growled. Mechanical beings who consume entire star systems for raw materials. They have already destroyed 3 colony worlds in the Outer Rim. The ethereal delegate's voice whispered in everyone's minds. Our seers have looked into the future. They have seen the fall of civilizations and the darkness that follows. This threat is beyond anything we have faced before. Kate listened carefully, but she didn't let her expression change. She had to appear concerned, but not too knowledgeable. The other ambassadors were talking among themselves, their voices mixing into a buzz of worry and fear. "How many ships do they have?" asked the Vorthan representative. The Vorthans were traders who cared more about profit than war. "Our scouts report a main fleet of at least 10,000 vessels," Prime Zephi said. "Each one is larger than our biggest battleships. Their technology is unknown to us." Unknown to you, maybe, Kate thought to herself. Human intelligence had been tracking the Void Hunters for months. They knew things about the enemy that the Council could never guess. General Kexmore stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow over the chamber. "We must combine our fleets immediately. The Draknari Empire will contribute 5,000 warships to the defense. The Zephyrian Navy will provide 3,000 vessels," Prime Zephi announced. "Our crystal ships have the best shields in the galaxy." The ethereal delegate shimmered. "We will provide strategic guidance and psychic support. Our mind weapons can disable enemy crews." Other species began making their own promises. The Vorthans offered their fast courier ships. The Aquarians promised their underwater worlds as safe bases. Even the insectoid hive minds agreed to provide their swarming fighters. Then Prime Zephi turned his attention to the upper seats. A minor species must also contribute to this war effort. Every ship, every resource, every life may be needed to stop this threat. Kate felt the attention of the chamber focusing on the smaller species. The Zephyrian leader's crystal eyes found her among the crowd of minor ambassadors. "Humanity," he said, his musical voice carrying a note of disdain. "You will provide supply, ships and labor crews. Your primitive technology is not suitable for frontline combat, but you can serve in support roles." There it was, the dismissal that Kate had been expecting. To the Council, humans were barely worth considering as warriors. They were good for carrying supplies and doing manual labor, but nothing more. "We will also need human colonies to serve as refugee centers," General Kexmore added. "Your worlds are far from the fighting, which makes them safe for evacuating civilians." Kate stood up slowly. "Ambassador Fisher, representing humanity," she said in a clear voice. "We understand the seriousness of this threat. Humanity will do whatever is necessary to defend civilized space." "Good," Prime Zephi said, already turning away. "You will report to Supply Coordinator Velenith for assignment. Do not interfere with military operations." The casual dismissal stung, but Kate had expected it. She sat back down and listened as the Council continued planning their war. They talked about battle formations and supply lines, about which species would command which fleets. Not once did anyone ask for human input on strategy or tactics. The meeting went on for hours. Kate watched and listened, memorizing every detail. She activated a small recording device hidden in her sleeve, one that looked like a simple medical monitor. The technology was far beyond what the Council thought humans possessed. As the session continued, long-range sensors began picking up unusual readings from the outer system. A technician, one of the multi-eyed Zephyrian subspecies, approached. Prime Zephi with a data pad. "Sir," the technician said nervously, We're detecting large objects moving in from the edge of the system. The readings are ... unusual. Prime Zephyr's crystal body dimmed slightly. What kind of objects? Unknown. Sir, they're big, and they're moving fast. Faster than any ship in our records. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The Void Hunters had found them. General Kexmore was the first to react. Battle stations. All ships prepare for combat. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. The peaceful diplomatic meeting had become a war council in seconds. Representatives from various species began shouting orders to their fleets. How many ships? Prime Zephy demanded. The technician's multiple eyes were wide with fear. At least 50, sir. Maybe. More. They're jamming our sensors. Kate felt her heart racing, but she kept her expression calm. This was happening faster than anyone had expected. The Void Hunters were supposed to be weeks away, not arriving right now. She touched a small device on her wrist, activating a hidden communicator. The message she sent was simple. Package delivery may be needed soon. Down in the docking bay, Captain Morrison would be receiving that message. He would understand what it meant. The time for hiding might be over. The holographic display in the center of the chamber changed to show the approaching enemy fleet. The Void Hunter ships were sleek and black, shaped like deadly arrows cutting through space. They moved with perfect coordination, like a school of mechanical fish. Deploy the defense fleet, General Kexmore ordered. Form up at the edge of the system. Sir, the technician said, his voice shaking, the defense fleet is already engaging. There. They're taking heavy casualties. On the display, Kate could see the battle beginning. The Council's ships were fighting bravely, but the Void Hunter technology was clearly superior. Explosions lit up the darkness as proud warships were torn apart. This is impossible, Prime Zephy said. Our intelligence said they were weeks away. The ethereal delegate's voice whispered urgently in everyone's minds. The future has changed. The paths we saw are no longer certain. Kate stood up again. With respect, Prime Zephy, perhaps it's time to consider all available options. The Zephyrian leader turned his crystal gaze on her. What could humans possibly offer that our advanced fleets cannot? Kate smiled slightly. You might be surprised. The battle raged outside the station as the Council watched their carefully laid plans crumble. The Void Hunters were not just winning, they were dominating the fight with ease. In the docking bay, Terra's Pride sat quietly among the other human ships. But inside, systems were beginning to come online. The deception was about to end, and the galaxy was about to learn what humanity could really do when pushed to the edge. The Council chamber shook as another explosion rocked the station. Through the massive viewports, everyone could see the flashes of light as ships died in the darkness. The Void Hunter fleet had torn through the outer defenses like they were made of paper. Shield generators are failing, reported the station's defense coordinator, a nervous Zephyrian named Quilseth. His crystalline body was flickering with stress patterns. We're losing power to the main deflector arrays. Prime Zephy's musical voice had lost its confident tone. How is this possible? Our shields are the best in the galaxy. Their weapons are unlike anything we've seen, Quilseth said, his multiple eyes darting between displays. They're using some kind of energy that phases through our defenses. On the holographic display, the battle was going badly. The proud Draknari warships, feared throughout the galaxy, were being picked apart by the sleek black Void Hunter vessels. The Zephyrian crystal ships, with their advanced shields, lasted only seconds longer before exploding in brilliant flashes. General Kexmore slammed his armored fist on his chair. Impossible. My fleet has never been defeated. Your fleet is being destroyed, the ethereal delegate whispered in everyone's minds. The future grows darker with each passing moment. Kate Fisher watched the battle with growing concern. She had known this day would come, but seeing it happen was different from preparing for it. She touched her hidden communicator again and sent a coded message. Authorization requested for package delivery. Down in the docking bay, Captain Morrison received the message on his private channel. He looked around the bridge of Terra's Pride, where his crew was waiting for orders. The ship still looked like an old cargo hauler, but everyone knew what it really was. "Captain," Amy Phillips said from her communication station, "I'm picking up the ambassador's signal." "She's asking for authorization." Jake Morrison nodded grimly. "What's the situation outside?" Chief Engineer Ryan Clark looked up from his console. "The Council fleet is getting destroyed. The Void Hunters are using some kind of phased energy weapons that go right through conventional shields." "Just like we predicted," Commander Lisa Hayes said. "Our intelligence was right. The Council's technology isn't advanced enough to fight them." Jake stood up from his captain's chair. For 10 years, he had been pretending to be just another human trader. But before that, he had been a decorated military officer. Now it was time to be a soldier again. "How long until the Void Hunters reach the station?" he asked. "At their current speed, maybe 20 minutes, Ryan replied. "The defense grid won't hold them for 5. Jake looked out at the battle raging outside. He could see the Void Hunter. Ships moving with deadly precision, their black hulls absorbing the light from weapons fire. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, like mechanical predators hunting in the dark. "Send a message to Ambassador Fisher," he ordered. "Tell her package delivery is authorized." Amy's fingers flew over her controls. "Message sent, Captain." Jake activated the ship's internal communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for combat operations. Initiate transformation sequence on my mark." Throughout the ship, crew members moved to their battle stations. The cargo hold, which had appeared full of coffee and chocolate, began to reconfigure itself. Hidden panels slid away to reveal weapon systems and military equipment. On the bridge, Ryan Clark's fingers danced over his engineering controls. "Transformation systems online, Captain. We're ready to drop the disguise." Jake looked at his crew one last time. Amy Phillips, young and nervous, but brilliant with communications. Lisa Hayes, his trusted second-in-command who had helped plan this deception. Ryan Clark, the engineer who had made it all possible. 10 years, he said quietly. 10 years of pretending to be something we're not. Are you ready to show them who we really are? Ready, Captain, they said together. Jake smiled and pressed the activation button. Execute transformation sequence. The change began slowly. The outer hull of Terra's Pride started to shift and move. Magnetic plates that had been held in place by hidden clamps began to slide away. Underneath, gleaming armor plating was revealed. The process was like watching a butterfly emerge from its cocoon, except this butterfly was made of metal and weapons. The ship's hull extended as hidden sections deployed. The bridge rose up as the true command center came online. Weapon ports opened along the ship's sides like eyes opening in the dark dot in the council chamber. Kate Fisher felt the vibration through the station's hull as her ship revealed itself. She stood up and activated her hidden communicator for everyone. To hear, Council Station, this is Ambassador Fisher. I have an announcement to make. Prime Zephyrhai turned his crystal gaze on her. Human, this is not the time for your primitive concerns. Kate smiled. I think you'll find this very relevant to our current situation. Outside the station, the transformation was complete. The old cargo hauler Terra's Pride was gone. In its place sat a sleek warship that looked like it had been built by angels and armed by demons. The hull was smooth and predatory, with lines that spoke of speed and power. Amy Phillips activated the ship's new communication system. Her voice, no longer nervous and uncertain, rang out across all frequencies. "This is the U.E.'s Defiance, Human Defense Force. We are moving to engage the enemy." The silence that followed was deafening in the council chamber. Every eye turned to Kate Fisher, the woman who had sat quietly in the back, representing humanity's supposed weakness, was now smiling with quiet confidence. "Impossible," Prime Zephi whispered. "Humans don't have that kind of technology." "We've been very careful about what we let you see," Kate replied. "For 10 years, we've maintained the illusion that we were primitive and weak. We let you think we were only good for manual labor and supply runs." General Kexmore's red eyes burned with anger. "You deceived us. We protected ourselves," Kate said calmly. "We knew that if you discovered our true capabilities too soon, you would see us as a threat instead of an ally." The ethereal delegate's voice was filled with shock. "We could not read your minds. We thought it was because you were too primitive to be worth scanning. We've been shielding our thoughts for years," Kate explained. "We developed the technology specifically to prevent psychic intrusion." On the display, the Defiance was moving toward the Void Hunter fleet. It accelerated smoothly, its engines producing a distinctive blue-white glow that was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. "One ship," Prime Zephi said. "What can one ship do against an entire fleet?" Kate's smile grew wider. "Watch and learn." The Defiance opened fire as it approached the enemy formation. Its weapons were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, it fired projectiles that moved at incredible speeds. The kinetic rounds struck the Void Hunter ships with devastating effect, but the real surprise came when the enemy returned fire. The Void Hunter weapons that had torn through every other defense simply passed through the human ship like it wasn't. "There, quantum shields," Kate explained to the stunned Council. "The attacks are phase-shifted into parallel dimensions. Very useful against energy weapons." The Defiance danced between the larger Void Hunter vessels, its smaller size allowing it to move with impossible grace. It struck at weak points in vulnerable systems, each attack precisely calculated for maximum damage. "How?" General Kexmore demanded. "How do you have such technology?" Kate's expression grew serious. "Because we've been preparing for this day. Since we first learned, we weren't alone in the universe. We knew that eventually something would come out of the dark that would threaten all of us. We decided to be ready." The tide of battle was turning. The Void Hunter fleet, which had seemed unstoppable, was being systematically dismantled by a single human ship. Each enemy vessel that fell revealed more about humanity's hidden capabilities. "There are more ships," the ethereal delegate realized. "This is not your only vessel," Kate nodded. "The Defiance is just the beginning. We have an entire fleet hidden throughout this system. Ships that have been waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves." As if summoned by her words, more human vessels began to decloak throughout the system. They appeared like ghosts becoming solid, their sleek hulls gleaming in the light of the star. The Council sat in stunned silence as they watched humanity's secret fleet take the field. The species they had dismissed as primitive traders were revealing themselves to be the most advanced military force in the galaxy. "Why?" Prime Zephi asked quietly. "Why hide this from us?" Kate looked around the chamber at all the alien faces, staring at her. "Because we wanted to be your allies, not your enemies. We knew that if you discovered our true strength too soon, fear would drive you to attack us. So we waited. We let you think we were weak while we built our defenses." The last Void Hunter ship on the display exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The immediate threat was over, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. "The main fleet is still coming," Kate said. "This was just their advance force. But now you know the truth about humanity. The question is, will you accept us as equals?" in this fight, or will fear make you our enemies? The council chamber was silent, except for the soft hum of the station's systems. The galaxy had just learned that its newest members were also its most dangerous. The age of human deception was over. The age. The U's Defiance moved through space like a predator hunting its prey. Captain Morrison sat in his command chair, watching the tactical display as his ship closed in on the remaining Void Hunter vessels. The bridge hummed with quiet efficiency. As his crew worked at their stations, "Target the lead ship," he ordered. "Amy, scan for weak points in their hull structure." Lieutenant Phillips worked at her expanded sensor console, no longer the nervous communications officer she had pretended to be. "I'm reading power fluctuations near their main engine assembly. It looks like they're having trouble with their energy distribution." "That's what happens when you build ships that big," Chief Engineer Clark said from his station. "More systems mean more things that can go wrong." Commander Hayes studied the tactical display. "The Void Hunters are trying to regroup. They're moving into a defensive formation." Jake smiled grimly. "Too late for that. Ryan, give me maximum power to the forward guns." The Defiance's main weapons charged with a deep humming sound that vibrated through the ship's hull. These weren't the simple energy weapons that most species used. Human engineers had developed something far more deadly: kinetic accelerators that could fire projectiles at nearly the speed of light. "Firing solution locked," Amy reported. "Ready to engage. Fire." The space around the Defiance lit up as the kinetic rounds streaked toward their target. The projectiles were small, no bigger than a person's fist, but they carried enormous amounts of energy. When they hit the Void Hunter ship, the impact was devastating. The enemy vessel's hull cracked and split as the kinetic rounds punched through its armor. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as critical systems failed. Within seconds, the massive ship was breaking apart. "Direct hit," Amy called out. "Enemy vessel is destroyed. Next target," Jake ordered. "Don't give them time to adapt." The Defiance spun gracefully through space, its advanced maneuvering systems allowing it to move in ways that seemed impossible. The ship was smaller than the Void Hunter vessels, but that worked in its favor. It could dodge and weave between the enemy ships like a fighter plane dancing around bombers. The Void Hunters tried to return fire, but their weapons simply passed through the human ship. The quantum shields that protected the Defiance worked by shifting incoming attacks into parallel dimensions. The enemy's energy beams hit nothing but empty space. "They're getting frustrated," Lisa observed, watching the enemy formation start to break up. "Their tactics are becoming more aggressive." "Good," Jake said. "Frustrated enemies make mistakes." 3 Void Hunter ships broke away from the main group and tried to surround the Defiance. Their black hulls gleamed in the starlight as they moved to attack positions. Jake watched them approach with calm confidence. "They're trying to box us in," Amy warned. "Multiple targets converging on our position." "Ryan, prepare for emergency maneuvers," Jake ordered. "Lisa, target the ship on our starboard side. Amy, be ready to relay targeting data to the other human ships." The Defiance suddenly accelerated, its engines blazing with blue-white fire. The ship shot forward just as the 3 Void Hunter vessels opened fire. Their weapons crossed the space where the human ship had been moments before, hitting nothing but vacuum. "No!" Jake shouted. The Defiance's weapons fired in sequence, each shot carefully aimed at critical systems. The first Void Hunter ship took a direct hit to its main reactor and exploded in a brilliant flash. The second ship lost its engines and began drifting helplessly. The third ship tried to turn away, but it was too late. "Target destroyed," Amy reported. 2 more damaged and retreating. Throughout the system, other human ships were engaging the remaining Void Hunters. The vessels that had been hidden for years were now revealing their true power. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering, designed specifically to fight enemies like the Void Hunters. "Captain," Amy said, "I'm getting communications from the other human ships. They're reporting successful engagements across the system." Jake nodded. "What about the Council fleet?" "The survivors are regrouping near the station. They're watching." U.S. fight. On Council Station, the alien representatives were indeed watching the battle with amazement. The holographic display showed the human ships systematically destroying the Void Hunter fleet. The species they had dismissed as primitive were fighting with technology that surpassed anything they had ever seen. "Impossible," Prime Zephii whispered. "How can they move like that?" Ambassador Fisher stood beside the display, her expression calm despite the chaos around them. "We've had time to study your enemies. We know their weaknesses." General Kexmore's red eyes were fixed on the tactical display. "Your ships are smaller than ours, but they're faster and more maneuverable. And those weapons ... Kinetic accelerators," Kate explained. "We fire solid projectiles at very high speeds. They're much more effective against heavily armored targets than energy weapons." The ethereal delegate's voice whispered in everyone's minds. "We still cannot read your thoughts. How do you coordinate your attacks so precisely?" Kate smiled. "Quantum communication networks. Our ships can share information instantly across any distance. Each captain knows exactly what the others are doing." The battle was turning into a rout. The Void Hunter ships that had seemed so powerful were being picked apart by the human fleet. Their superior numbers meant nothing when they couldn't hit their targets or coordinate their attacks. "Captain," Amy called out, "the last group of Void Hunters is trying to retreat. They're heading for the edge of the system." Jake studied the tactical display. "Don't let them escape. If they report back to their main fleet, they'll know what we can do." The Defiance pursued the fleeing enemy ships, its engines pushing it to maximum speed. The quantum shields flickered as the ship accelerated beyond normal safety limits, but the advanced technology held. "Ryan, how are the engines holding up?" Jake asked. "Running hot, but stable," the engineer replied. "These ships were built to push the limits." The chase led them through the outer system, past the orbital stations and mining facilities that ringed the star. The Void Hunter ships were fast, but the human vessels were faster. One by one, the fleeing enemy ships were caught and destroyed. "Last target acquired," Amy reported. "It's the largest ship in their fleet." The final Void Hunter vessel was indeed massive, easily twice the size of the Defiance. Its hull was covered in weapon ports and sensor arrays. This was clearly a command ship, designed to coordinate the attack on the Council. That's their flagship, Lisa realized. If we can take it out, their whole fleet will be finished. Jake nodded. "All ships, concentrate fire on the enemy command vessel. Don't let it escape." The human fleet converged on the massive Void Hunter ship. The enemy vessel tried to fight back, its weapons firing in all directions, but the quantum shields protected the attacking ships. The kinetic rounds from the human weapons hammered against the enemy's hull, each impact weakening its structure. "Their shields are failing," Amy reported. "Hull breaches on multiple decks." "Keep firing," Jake ordered. "Don't give them a chance to recover." The final barrage was devastating. The Void Hunter command ship's hull cracked like an eggshell as the kinetic rounds tore through its armor. Internal explosions lit up its darkened corridors as critical systems failed one by one. "They're losing power," Ryan reported. "Their reactor is going critical." The massive ship began to break apart, its sections separating as the internal structure collapsed. The explosion, when it finally died, was visible from the Council Station, a brief new star in the darkness of space. "All targets destroyed," Amy announced. "The immediate threat is over." Jake settled back in his command chair, feeling the tension. drained from his shoulders. The battle was won, but he knew it was just the beginning. The main Void Hunter fleet was still out there, and when they arrived, they would be ready for the human ships. "Set course for the station," he ordered. "It's time to have a conversation with the Council." The human fleet began moving back toward Council Station, their sleek hulls reflecting the light of the star. They had revealed themselves to the galaxy. And there was no going back now. In the Council chamber, the alien representatives watched the human ships approach with a mixture of awe and fear. They had learned that their